Welcome back, and hello if you are new. So thank you so much for tuning in. As I'm sure you're aware, I was away on my honeymoon for the last 3 weeks, and we had a fantastic road trip of California, saw all sorts of amazing stuff, but I'll be getting into that a little bit later. Reinventing yourself more than halfway through your career is something that even the most ardent of metal superstars would be hesitant to do. Following their divergent 10th release, which was Heritage, it saw Opeth really move into this prog rock oriented sound and completely leave behind their death metal roots. Now with their 13th record and 4th in this new incarnation, Opeth may finally have collided these two worlds to create a sound that only a band like Opeth could do on Cauda Venenum. Giving a nod to King Diamond's classic Them, the album front cover of Cauda Venenum invites you into this brand new world. Following the fantastic prologue of Livet Trädgård, or Garden of Earthly Delights, we're moved into this idea of a Tangerine Dream-esque minimalist style, which I've not really seen before in Opeth's sound. This then gives flight to the ostentatious Sveket Prince, or Dignity, where we see Opeth come in full swing with all the huge sounds that we've come to know from their prog rock style. Now, previously we've seen what I think was ambitious ideas, but perhaps the execution that wasn't quite there to match on Opeth's newer sound. That being said, their previous catalogue are all brilliant records, but this is an Opeth yardstick that we're measuring against. So really, the competition is incredibly high. Not only is the album available in 2 languages, both Swedish and English, but it creates this atmosphere that Opeth, I think, have been trying to create for the last couple of albums. This is partly down to the fluidity with which each song works. I also find it incredibly interesting that most of the songs on Cauda Venenum are a game of 2 halves. So you often have one section which, may be heavier or slightly lighter, and then it moves into a heavier sort of spectrum. And it is this fluidity that really, I think, makes Cauda Venenum not only a lot more engaging, but very much more atmospheric. We're then moved to the closing section of the album's epic first half on Minnets Utta, or otherwise known as Lovelorn Crime, which sees a reintroduction of these fantastic stringed and orchestral elements which were introduced in the track previous. But later on it explodes into a fantastic classic rock, almost Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven style solo that really does steal the show and showcases just how brilliant Fredrik Åkesson's leads are. Continuelle Grift, or otherwise known as Continuum, also has this fantastic dexterity to it. With the use of a wah pedal, again from Åkesson, that would make John Petrucci blush, it's really these different ideas that the band are putting together that combine the idea of prog rock, but also this classic rock element which they've definitely been fleshing out in the last couple of albums. Likewise, the fantastic Spanish guitar of Ingen Sanning är allas, or otherwise known as Universal Truth, leads us beautifully into Bannemannen, where we begin to enter the Deus Ex Machina section of the album, and quite rightly the tension begins to be quite ramped up with this incredibly ominous piano riff. But then the tone of the guitar creates this almost fluffy jazz style to it with clarinets and orchestra on top. But instead the weight of these many different instruments and their layers doesn't cripple the song, but if anything, just enhances it. Now, when it comes to heavy, the interpretation of heavy on this record is more of a state of mind than a love letter to distortion. Fortunately, Venenum changes things up to allow some real fantastic curveballs, particularly in the shape of Charlatan, and it sounds like a combination of Meshuggah meets King Crimson, but with that quintessential Opeth tweak. It's led by a fantastic stuttering riff that is of course quintessentially Opeth, but then at the end of the song it's finished with this orchestral section and even Gregorian choir. And one of the reasons I think that this album really keeps you engaged throughout is through the simple medium of voices. Voices often either open the track or close the track, but it keeps this sense of continuity running throughout the record. Though at times it has to be said that the instruments are the best at talking, as seen on the final track, Allting tar slut, or otherwise known as All Things Will Pass, which has one of the most ominous piano intros I think I've ever heard, and that is the idea of what I mean by heavy. And particularly in Cauda Venenum, after experimenting more and more vocally, I feel that Åkerfeldt really allowed himself to kind of have free rein with his range in vocals on this album. For the fans of Opeth's classic material like Blackwater Park, Ghost Reveries, I'm sure you'll be absolutely gobsmacked to know that they haven't returned to their death metal roots. Instead, Opeth now sound new, reinvigorated, and incredibly driven. And this is what is going to make them a true contender to become the level that they became with that death metal sound in a prog rock arena. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Be sure to let me know what you think. I always love chatting with you guys in the comments. Are you a fan of Opeth's new direction? If not, why? I'd love to find out. So, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week for another album review, and it's good to be back, guys. Take care.